Welcome to Season 3 of E-Commerce Fastlane, Episode 89.
Welcome to E-Commerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, launch, grow, and scale a wildly successful e-commerce company. Listen to real conversations with proven practical strategies and success stories. Learn how to generate more traffic, more sales, more profit, and customer lifetime value for your Shopify store. And now, your host and e-commerce entrepreneur, Steve Hutt.
This episode is brought to you by Omnisend, makers of sophisticated omni-channel marketing automation tools for sales-driven Shopify brands and marketers that have outgrown generic email marketing platforms. Engage your customers and boost your e-commerce sales with dynamic emails, text messages, web push notifications, Facebook Messenger, and retargeting ads on Google and Facebook. So it's much more than just email marketing. They handle all of your marketing activities across multiple channels, all from within one platform. They have single-click Shopify integration, which also includes email templates and automatic product import from Shopify. Super easy migration from any other email solution that you might be currently using. And right now, Omnisend is offering a 14-day free trial for all of my listeners, which also includes 50% off for the first 3 months. So check them out, ecommercefastlane.com/Omnisend, and use the coupon code FASTLANE when you sign up. Hey there, it's Steve, and welcome back to the E-Commerce Fastlane podcast. This is your first time listening. This is an e-commerce show where we have honest and transparent conversations about building and thriving with your store powered by Shopify or Shopify Plus. Now, new episodes are available each week with your favorite podcast player through iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and Spotify. Or you can also sign up online at ecommercefastlane.com to be notified when a new show is being released. Now, my guest on today's episode is Jonathan Smalley, who's the CEO and co-founder of Yaguara. And they're a platform that helps merchants work better using their data. And it's really been designed to aggregate and present data at all levels across your Shopify organization. It's a platform really that is there to help you get the insights and just help you work better, both individually and then as part of a team. So it's really interesting how this puts all of this first-party data together and really, really helps you with different layers. So we're going to dig deep into this today. So hi, John. Welcome to E-Commerce Fastlane.
Hey, Steve. How are you doing today? Thanks so much for having me on board.
Yeah, absolutely. I know this is our version 2 of this podcast. Version 1, bend, don't break is my mantra. A catastrophic failure, but glad we're able to jump on a call today and get this recorded. I think it's super important that people understand that there is help through SaaS, through your solution, to really help them understand their data and action their data. We're going to dig into it because I think it's very timely right now based on what's happening in the world right now. And people need to start setting appropriate goals and understanding their data and actioning them. So that's why I have you on today.
Yeah, excited to dive into it.
So let's talk on a high level first. So what does Yaguara do and what sort of problem are you attempting to solve for Shopify store owners?
Yeah, I think you touched on it a bit. Our goal of our platform is to help companies use their data to make better decisions faster across the organization. And so I think for us, there's 3 pieces there. The first is, having all of the right data in one place. What we think about is this idea of a single source of truth. The second is having the right business context. What are we trying to accomplish with our data? Who's responsible for it? And then the last piece is this idea that we think about is data utility and decision velocity. Are we getting meaningful insights to the right people so that we can make decisions faster? That's really our goal here is to empower. I know just like you, our goal here is to empower this next amazing generation of e-commerce and specifically Shopify merchants.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your journey. I'm always fascinated with why people build what they build and their journeys of just, you're making something out of nothing. I would really love to understand, what you believe uniquely positions you and maybe the founding team, number 1, to have the desire, and number 2, to have the expertise to want to create this platform.
Yeah, so for me, I think it started really early. My background is in digital product. I started writing code in middle school, volunteered on a medical R&D project, initially programming high fidelity medical simulations to test doctors so they could figure out how to treat people, better in emergent situations without having to, work on a patient that was dying. And then that led to creating what we called decision support tools. And that's really when, as like a 20-year-old, as most 20-year-olds do, I really fell in love with data and this idea of data being actionable and data being this force for good that can enable people to be better at their job. And in that case, it was being a physician. And then after college, I started my first company and really just fell in love with entrepreneurship, fell in love with being able to build something for yourself, which I think is probably like a big ethos that we share with Shopify. And we were working with, everything from Major League Soccer down to smaller startups and including, a lot of e-com and retail companies of varying sizes. And this is kind of like the 2013, 2014 time when there's kind of this mass SaaSification of every role and function across an organization, and getting to be, the first company was an agency, and being exposed to all that data. What we saw was our companies that we worked with had access to all this data, but they really had no way to, kind of going back to this R&D that I did inside of hospital systems, they had no great way to turn this disparate and siloed data into actionable insights. And that was kind of the light bulb for me to say, the future of work, now it very much feels like the present of work, of us all being remote and social distancing. But particularly for commerce, the future of commerce felt like it had already changed really drastically and was going to continue to change even more. And so we felt like it was really time for a platform that was specifically built for the future of work and the future of commerce.
And so you touched on a little bit, and I mean, I know about this solution, and that's why I have you on today, because I have a few brands that have made the choice to make this as part of their weekly workflow. And it breaks down into three, I would call them, I guess, layers. Can we dig a little bit into just the whole Jaguar workflow? And just, I think for those that don't know the platform, it's nice to be able to understand that there really are three distinct layers and why it's a powerful solution. And when you think about, and you mentioned the data part of it first, what are the other two levels?
So like you said, that we kind of think about the platform in these three layers, they're building blocks on top of each other where kind of one can't exist without the other. And that first piece is what you talked about, the data layer, and for us, it looks very similar if you're familiar with customer data platform. This is where we're taking all of your disparate data, we're aggregating it and unifying it, and then we're normalizing it into that next layer, which is the application layer. This is where, you as a user of Jaguar spend your time. One of our big learnings really early on is, even going back to the agency days, was that tools that have existed, a lot of really, really powerful BI tools and even CDPs that have existed over the last 10 years are great at moving data around, but what they're not great is giving data to end users in a way that they can do something usable with it without having to write code. And so for us, this idea of normalization was really important so that our customers could, one, tie individual metrics into their business context, their goals, their budgets, their projects, but then also that we could create some really awesome technology that allowed our users to recombinate data in ways that really only could have done manually before. I think a really great example of that is, it's something like a blended CAC. You want to know how much it costs for you to acquire a customer. If you did this in the past, you're doing that through, writing SQL and having to have data scientist on hand, and then you're writing that, SQL query, and then you're putting it into some complex BI tool, or you're having to find a way to retroactively report on it, or you're doing CSV dumps from all of your different platforms into, a spreadsheet. You're spending hours in a spreadsheet creating the calculation. And then as soon as you have it done, that data is already stale. And we said, well, what if we took these real-time data streams and created a really simple and usable experience, which we call the metric calculator and metric library, to build these metrics that's pulling, recombinating data in real time and making it usable to everyone across your team. So you're not only measuring the thing you want to measure, but you're measuring it in real time. And you're aligning your team around how we measure something. And, I think that when we look at this application layer, that's really what the application layer is about. It's about creating this single source for your team where everyone is aligned on measuring what matters to the business and to themselves, seeing progress in real time, and then being able to focus on the areas that are requiring a little bit of extra, TLC and attention. And that application layer then basically informs that third layer, which is the intelligence layer. For us, we think if you've got the right unified data and you've got it pointed in the right direction with the right business context of what's our goal that we're trying to achieve, what's our budget we're trying to stay within, and who's the person that's responsible for that, well, then we can build some really badass technology that then surfaces insights and recommendations to that end user so that they can really harness not just the data that they would traditionally have access to, but they can harness the power of data from across the organization to make better decisions faster based on the things that are really meaningful to them and what they're responsible for.
And I notice the same thing when I chat with brands when they have a CDP, this customer data platform, or a business intelligence tool. A lot of times, especially some of the legacy ones that are out there, they really don't have that final intelligence layer. It's almost like it seems like Jaguar is really helping people make better decisions almost because you have the data, we have goals and, as you said, budgets and projects and things are set up in the platform, but then there's also a layer to help you action that data.
Yeah, absolutely. What are the promises that kind of big data and this like idea of data brought? And then where are they falling short? And I think what we realized really quickly is that there was this promise of big data that people were going to be able to make the right decisions better and faster. And then what people were really stuck with were these retroactive reports without context. You're looking at a bar graph, you're looking at a line graph, a stacked area graph. And, maybe as a marketer, maybe as a merchandiser, a CX, account representative, you're looking at that data and you're saying, well, what does that mean to me? How do I draw some insight out of that? And the piece that we really felt was missing was how do we put this power of data, these actionable insights into the hands of the people who can actually say, yes, that's what I'm trying to achieve. Yes, that's a helpful insight. Now I'm going to go act on this information.
One thing I love too inside the platform is you have a template, this template library available, and you put together some really good, almost sections of like acquisition and conversion and retention and brand strategy and technical solutions integrations. And I noticed one, for example, under conversion. And when you click on it, it says, drive sustainable revenue growth. Okay, that sounds like a great template that I wouldn't mind tracking. And it says, top performing e-commerce companies are not just great at acquiring customers, but they know how to keep them coming back to drive sustainable long-term growth. And then they talk about some of the key results that are important. A lot of these are inside Shopify. For example, like orders and customers and average order value and lifetime value and items that they've ordered and, new versus returning and all that sort of thing. And you can go ahead and like click a button and use that template and you can actually put a date range in there and the priority of it. And then you can decide alignment wise, like who should be responsible for this and trying to, associate a particular team member or a group or even the whole company if it's a company goal. What I find interesting, though, is that then you're giving people the opportunity to kind of set your goals for this particular integration. And so you can actually set what you're currently at and what you would like to be at as far as new customers or average order value and your time to reorder. And so here you are setting your own objectives and your business results and the time frame. We talk about, creating smart goals, being very specific and measurable and attainable and relevant and time-based. This is exactly what your tool does, is that we have some great templates already set up in here to help you with acquisition, conversion, and retention, but then assign it to somebody, put a time to it, and then what are the actual metrics that you're trying to follow? That's pretty compelling if you ask me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Obviously, the templates are there for a reason. I think one, we've worked with some of the best entrepreneurs and operators in the space and are fortunate to have some of those people like the founders of Warby Parker, the founders of Harry's, invested in us and helping us. Again, going back to our overall mission of empowering this next generation of great merchants is how do we, as a company that gets to work with hundreds or thousands of merchants and some of the best in class merchants, how do we take this shared knowledge base and codify that and then make it really useful and applicable to our users and give them what you and I have talked about an awful lot as like a guided experience, that it's not just enough to have data in one place. You need someone to help you say, like, here's how this really, obviously this is your job, right? As a merchant success manager, is to guide merchants. And so we want to make not only your life better, but the lives of your merchants better by saying, here's kind of the gold standard protocol to follow at different stages of your business, at different levels of granularity, at different, roles and function across the team. For us, that template is a knowledge base, and it's constantly evolving as we learn more so that we can help our merchants focus and move as quickly and as thoughtfully as possible.
One other area I want to quickly touch on, since I have the platform open, is that you have a section that allows for what we call custom metrics. And I'd like you to talk about why you built that and how it could potentially be useful for a Shopify brand.
I mean, I think we touched on it a little bit back in like the idea of blended CAC. How can we marry these metrics from multiple platforms? I think a metric that I've really been loving recently that we've been working with our customers on, as we're seeing more people shopping online, as we're seeing cost per clicks go down, there's something that a lot of our brands and our merchants have really wondered about is like this idea of like marketing efficiency. How do we have like one metric that can be a great indicator of marketing efficiency? And essentially, like if we're inside of some realm or some range of that metric, like basically, should we just keep spending money and keep adding new customers? And the metric that we've worked to build with our customers, and this can work for you if you just advertise on Facebook and Instagram, or if you advertise across 10 different channels. The metric that we've really been loving recently is what we call a blended ROAS or even a blended PROAS. And basically what that number gives you is either for every dollar that we spend across our paid marketing channels, how many dollars are coming back to us in terms of top line revenue. So that gives us a multiple. Maybe we're generating $10 for every dollar we're spending. So we should never stop spending money. Or what's even cooler is if you give us access to, an integration that has access to your COGS, we can give you a blended profit return on ad spend, which basically says for every dollar that you spend in marketing, how many dollars are coming back to the bottom line of your business? I think of like a pretty incredible way. I get excited about it as an operator and someone who reports to a board and someone who's thinking about profitability. It's a really exciting way to, as a company, like direct, a large function of your go-to-market function as a merchant based on a single metric to say, hey, we're generating $8 in profit for every dollar that we're spending online. So we can't spend money fast enough.
Yeah, that's powerful information to know when you start adding COGS to the overall business strategy, more than just return on ad spend. So that's really awesome that that's available. I also noticed too, before we pivot to another question I have for you, but through integrations, I see that there may be some people that are already using another project management tool as part of their workflow. How do you connect Yaguara over to these different project management systems?
Yeah. So I think that's, something that's pretty unique to us here at Yaguara is that we think about data a bit more broadly. It's not just that quantitative data coming in from sales or CX or whatever it might be. We think about it as like, what's the totality of information that's being generated by your business? And we think something that's really important about that is tying and leveling tasks up to desired results. And so whether it's through, if you use a product like a ton of our users integrate with Asana or Rike, or we've got some light project management functionality inside Yaguara itself, one of the really powerful things that you can do is align your team. And I think like the most exciting examples of this are cross-functionally based on what we have to get done and what are our desired results. One of my favorite examples of this inside of our platform is launching a new product. So, in that example, say, we're launching a new shoe. We need to finalize the design. We need to, maybe have a project around delivering it to our 3PL, preparing it for launch, running a test order. We've got all these actionable steps we need to take. And on the other side of that, the marketing team needs to spend a certain budget. They need to acquire a certain number of customers. Our merchandising team needs to sell through a certain number of units of that to validate that this is a product we should continue or discontinue. And the really exciting thing about this idea of layering qualitative data along with quantitative data is that we can say, hey, like we can't get to selling through these units yet. We haven't run a test order. And so I think it's a really beautiful, especially now when people are working farther apart, it's a really great way to empower your team to work not only in different locations, but also asynchronously.
I love the fact too that you can also add on your CRM, being at Zendesk or Gorgeous, your user-generated content and reviews through Yotpo, loyalty and retention through Smile and having metrics going along with that, your ESP, like through Klaviyo, and then obviously GA and Google and Facebook and Instagram and all those social networks. It's interesting that all of those, if you're even Snapchat ads, that's the newest, hottest, a lot of things out right now. I'm sure TikTok is around the corner too. There's lots of stuff that's happening. It's great that all of this data can come in to Jaguar, and then from there, choose to use the Light project management tool built into this solution, and or if you're already on a workflow with Rike or Asana, off you go into that process. So it just makes people responsible and accountable, but it also, you don't have to interrupt your current tech stack and your workflow. These apps and things and these platforms that you're currently using will integrate nicely already with Jaguar, which is, I think, fantastic. So we should dig into the next question I have, and it's more around storytelling, because I always love to hear about successes and why people make the decisions on the platforms that they use as part of their day-to-day. Are you able to share any customer story or two?
Two kind of immediately come to mind. The first is a really exciting one, which is driven through our insight and recommendation engine. And that was one of our apparel companies in New York that we work with, a $15 to $20 million kind of mid-market retailer. They launched, a seasonal collection last fall, and they were, looking to obviously sell through a certain number of units of each, new SKU that they launched, as well as stay inside of a certain budget and obviously drive certain gross revenue based on this new collection they launched. And about 15 days into launching that collection, they got an anomaly detection. And basically, one of the pieces of functionality that we give to our users is obviously the insights and recommendation piece. And one particular insight that we give is an anomaly insight. And so we said, hey, over the last 15 days, these 5 different SKUs have had an anomalously high rate of return versus all products across your product category. And long story short, that led them to go and say, 50% is pretty high of a return rate for a t-shirt. Like people usually know. And it came out that in their supply chain, there was something messed up with the sizing guide of that. And so I think that's a really interesting example of how we can bring things to light really, really quickly for our companies. So obviously they would have found that out eventually, but in this case, they were able to make that decision faster, actually get that whole collection remade for free, basically. So I think that's one really exciting kind of ops related example. Another example that I think is super interesting is, we talked about a different one the first time that we chatted about this, but one that I think is really interesting. We were working with a company in the home and garden space, and they had, basically a goal. It was across their marketing department, and they had a goal for acquiring a certain number of companies inside of a certain budget. And basically halfway through the quarter, they got essentially an insight that said, hey, you're behind on your revenue goal. And at the same time, they got an insight that said, hey, you've got this goal to stay inside of a range for your average order value. Well, you're way ahead of your AOV goals. And so basically they were able to see is hey, we're spending the amount of money we wanted to, but people are converting at a lower rate, but they're converting at a higher AOV. And basically what that led them to do is actually, it's okay if we increase our budget a little bit because we're acquiring higher value customers. And so they increased that budget and they increased the range that they expected that they might be within for that AOV. And they actually ended up hitting, their revenue goal a few weeks early. And so I think there's, we could get into more granular insights that we've seen customers get on people with the fastest time to reorder purchase one of these 4 different SKUs of soap or something of that nature. There's a million different really exciting stories. And I think, again, kind of the goal of our platform and the flexible nature of it is that whether you're in merchandising, whether you're in customer experience and you have goals around average time to close tickets and maintaining certain return rates, the goal of the platform is if you tell us what you're trying to achieve, we're going to surface the right insights and recommendations to get you there.
So, John, this show really has a diverse range of listeners. And if you were to give some advice today for, I guess entrepreneurs that are on their early stage, it's probably a side hustle. They're working 9 to 5, but they have the Shopify brand, probably on Shopify core plan. They're getting a little bit of product market fit, so they are selling. But what sort of things do you think they should be working on to really help them continue to grow?
Yeah, I mean, I think for those early merchants, it's about establishing the good baselines of your business. And for us, and I think this comes from our head of customer strategy who ran a really successful Shopify store himself, actually, it starts with four metrics to create a baseline around, which he calls RTAC, which is revenue, traffic, AOV, and then CAC. Those core four metrics are a really, really great place for an early stage business or for an early entrepreneur to start really understanding your business. And looking at those, I think the baselines there, you look at obviously benchmarks in terms of what does month over month and average monthly revenue look like? What does our daily traffic look like? Like, are these things becoming consistent? Are we a seasonal business? Are these things really fluctuating, or do we have an idea of really like the baselines of our business, and are those things consistent? And then you can start layering sophistication and various things on top of that. And then obviously, as you understand those baselines, if you're a part-time entrepreneur who's looking to go full-time, that really gives you the ability to go out and raise capital, or it tells you where to employ your own capital efficiency, where you can see a better return on whatever the deployment of that capital is. And so both myself as an entrepreneur and then as a team, we always really encourage people establish baselines and then kind of go from there.
Now, what about those listening today that would be considered in the mid-market, maybe even an enterprise brand, and they would likely have a small team and they're definitely eager to grow and scale? They may even outsource some of their marketing strategy to a subject matter expert in a vertical that they're not great at. But what sort of advice would you give these sort of brands today, maybe the executive team or the marketing team?
I think, again, you probably already established those baselines. You understand what is the core of your business. You probably understand some key leading indicators to your business. An advisor for us and a good friend of mine, Henry Davis, who's the COO of Glossier for a long time, always says that you have a really great brand and a great experience when customers behave irrationally. And so, and by that, he means they'll tell their friends about it. If you launch a new product, they can't help but share. They can't help but reorder it really quickly. Mm-hmm. And so I think what's really important for brands is, even if you have those initial understandings of what are the drivers of your business, what are the baselines of your business, go back and say, and this is where obviously at Jaguar, we think this is really important. You go back to the North Stars for the business, for the department, for yourself, and say, what are we really being managed to? What are we trying to accomplish as a team? Are we focused on top line growth? Are we focused on increasing customer value? Are we focused on launching? Are our customers behaving totally irrationally and they're buying everything we put out? So hell, maybe we should even launch a new brand. And so I think it's really important to go back to those North Stars, and from those North Stars, then add those layers of sophistication and really iterate quickly. Because if we're focused on, say, we want to grow both top line while increasing lifetime value of our existing customer, well, then maybe we've got a huge chance to kind of throw spaghetti at the wall and get some really rapid data by throwing up some landing pages for new potential products and building a wait list. Maybe we have the potential of, launching a subscription service so that people are constantly, giving us money on a recurring basis. But I think all those tactics, all those strategies, all of those rapid learnings can only come from tying back each of those things to the North Star of the business.
So what does the future hold for Jaguar? Are you able to share any highlights for your 2020 roadmap? I think we're right now in the start of Q2 in 2020, and just curious about any kind of partner alignment and just overall how you believe the platform is going to iterate to continue helping Shopify brands.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is we're constantly adding new integrations. I think for us, you touched on, we're adding new, obviously there's new social platforms. There's new places where your customers' eyes are living all the time. And we always want to help you collect that data as quickly as possible. Or even suggest like, hey, maybe based on the industry you're in, like Snapchat or TikTok could be a great place for you to advertise. So scaling our integration suite so that we bring more data, not only from their first party data, but even third party data to make recommendations is something we're always focused on. And then, when we think about empowering our merchants to make better decisions faster. One of the things that we've realized for us is we deliver a lot of really powerful insights and recommendations that live inside the platform that you can collaborate around through commenting, through sharing, and all those sorts of things. And we want to continue to layer, levels of sophistication ourselves. And so for us, that means, if we're telling you that the people who reorder fastest, in their first purchase buy one of these 5 different products, well, we want you to be able to first explore those in a really meaningful way, which is this new module we'll be rolling out in the near future, an audience builder and explorer. And then from there, once we learn about this audience, then can we export that, create a lookalike audience in Facebook, create a email campaign specifically retargeting these users with, say, a sizing guide for people who are returning shoes on a hired basis or something of that nature. So this audience builder and exporter, we're really, really excited to be rolling out in the near future. And then the second piece of functionality that we're really excited about, this one's been in the works for a long time. We actually deliver these manually to our top customers, is industry benchmarks. So we have access to thousands and thousands of data points from across all of our customers. And we're going to be really excited that certainly by the end of this year, in app, you're going to be able to see hey, how do we line up to apparel brands who have an average product value of $80 to $120? How do we line up in average time to reorder? How do we line up in average cost per order? And tons of different things like that are, again, you and I have talked about this a lot. For both of us, our end goal is to empower these merchants. And we think a great way to empower merchants is not only to give them that data, but give it to them with context. And this is a big part of us broadening that context and saying, hey, maybe we're converting users at a 99th percentile of anyone in footwear. So we shouldn't spend any more time optimizing our checkout. Yeah. We need to be focused on our cost per order because that's in the bottom quartile.
That's a very good point. Yeah. I had a good conversation recently about the whole just conversion rate optimization. And is the KPI of conversion rate, is that a KPI that you should care about? And the answer is kind of no, even in this people in the same vertical, because there's so many other parts of the business from, like you said, the customer acquisition cost, the lifetime value. There are lots of parts of the puzzle, not just what is my conversion rate. So we are nearing the end of the show for today, but do you have any closing comments or any takeaways that you would like to leave with our listeners for today?
For merchants, I think it's both a really exciting time and also a really scary time, from just being uncertain of consumer behavior, being uncertain of supply chains. We've certainly seen, some of our customers be disrupted and have stockouts and various things like that. So I think for us, what we always try to encourage the merchants that we work with is be positive and move really quickly. I think it's really easy, especially in a tenuous time like this, to get down when something isn't performing how you would want it to. But that's obviously why there's people like you as a merchant success manager that they can reach out to and ask for help. There's, I think one of the really beautiful things about, I would say, like e-com and retail in general, and specifically inside of the Shopify ecosystem, is there's an awful lot of people who really, really care about this ecosystem and really, really care about the success of these merchants. So I would just encourage your listeners, stay positive, ask for help, because there's lots of people, around that want to be available to help you not only survive, but thrive in a really tumultuous time.
So how can people learn more about the Yaguara platform?
Yeah. Well, you can always go to yaguara.co. That's a great place to start. You can chat with us live there on Intercom, and probably 50% of the time you'll get me responding, because I still love to hear from prospects and customers as much as possible. We're Yaguara app on most social media platforms. And then, kind of timely enough, next Tuesday, which I think is April 28th, I am actually hosting a State of E-commerce digital panel with Joey, who's the co-CEO and co-founder of Allbirds, Reshma, who's the co-founder and I believe chief digital officer at Somersault, and then Brian Mahoney, who is co-founder and CTO at Arva, formerly CTO at Glossier. We're going to be doing just a little digital panel on the state of e-commerce. We're going to talk on everything from paid acquisition to seasonal inventory and kind of everything in between. So I think that's probably a really fun and maybe timely place to learn from some people that are way smarter than I am.
No, I love it. I love getting these. I think it's actually a very popular way now with Zoom and just whole social distancing and people working from home. It's a great way to still get some thought leadership and getting people together. And people are very open, I find, to want to help, depending on where you are in your journey, entrepreneurial or through the SaaS business. There's different maturities for people, but everyone's here to help. It's a challenging time right now, but it's the bend, don't break kind of mantra. So we did chat offline, and just before recording today, I thought I would just give you an opportunity maybe to share with our listeners today that you have an offer that you would like to give.
Yeah. So, once we've talked about this a lot, but once this time hit, one of the things that we did was say, like, how can we be helpful to the merchants? And can we put together a plan specifically for Shopify merchants and obviously for your listeners that can provide a lot of value? And so what we've done is we've put together this 90-day onboarding plan where you're going to be getting our highest level of not only customer support in terms of white glove onboarding and access to our team through our Slack community, but also you'll get to work hands-on with our really awesome customer strategy team, who's essentially going to function as your in-house data team. They're going to be helping you understand how your business has changed and evolved, and then help you understand, like, what are some of the new levers you might want to be pulling. So yeah, we're really excited about this offering. We've actually already, I think, talked to even a few of the companies that you work with about it. And I think there's been a really good response. And we're just really excited to kind of help guide people through a crazy and a little bit of a scary time.
So this is going to be like a 90-day kind of a white glove onboarding type solution. So I suppose they'll be setting up some baselines and understanding some benchmarks that are important for the brand. Then you're just going to work your way through month 2 and month 3 as far as getting these business goals. And then from there, once you can see what the platform is all about, see the power of it and the execution and obviously the results in the end, then you can see how this could be part of your daily workflow.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think we want to be a guide and be, we want you to feel like we're part of your team and really in tune with your goals. And then, we want to teach you how to fish. And so that at the end of those 90 days, you feel really confident in using the platform, really confident that you understand some of the drivers of your business. And, everyone across your team feels ready to jump in themselves and get their hands dirty and to make those better decisions faster.
Awesome. Love it. So I'll make sure I update the show notes with all of the links on today's show, specifically for this 90-day e-commerce program that you've put together. It'll be ecommercefastlane.com/Yaguara, and it's YAGUARA, and that will redirect you to the landing page for this offer. And once again, John, thank you for recording number 2 today. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing your obvious passion for wanting to help Shopify brands.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me. Enjoyed it.
This episode was brought to you by Omnisend, makers of sophisticated omni-channel marketing automation tools for sales-driven Shopify brands that have outgrown generic email marketing platforms. Engage your customers and boost your e-commerce sales with dynamic emails, text messages, web push notifications, Facebook Messenger, and retargeting ads on Facebook and Google, all from one platform. Try Omnisend for free for 14 days. Check them out, ecommercefastlane.com/Omnisend, and use the coupon code FASTLANE when you sign up. Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank you, a loyal listener of E-commerce Fastlane. It's my hope that this podcast is offering you a ton of value through growth strategies, tactics, and exclusive insider tips on the best Shopify apps and marketing platforms, all with my personal goal to help you build, launch, grow, and scale with Shopify. Thanks for investing some time today and listening to the show. I'm so proud and excited that you have a growth mindset and are a constant learner. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep thriving with Shopify.